As Emily settled by the expansive window of her Manhattan penthouse, she found herself captivated by the shimmering city lights. She extended an invitation to her stepson, encouraging him to take a taste. His reaction was one of sheer astonishment. "This is a true story." The glass of wine in her hand remained untouched, its deep red hue mirroring the unvoiced musings swirling within her mind. The solitude had woven itself into the fabric of her existence, slipping in quietly like an uninvited visitor. Mark, her husband, was off on yet another business trip, leaving behind a void filled only with silence. She had become accustomed to his absence, yet that did not lessen the weight of it. Once upon a time, their marriage was a different tale altogether. In the early years, Mark had cherished her, enveloping her in warmth and devotion. As the days unfolded, his focus began to change. His business enveloped him, casting Emily into the shadows of his mind. Once she had held the conviction that their love was unbreakable, yet now doubt crept into her heart. The fervor had dimmed, giving way to monotony and conversations that felt worlds apart. Evenings such as these brought to mind all that had slipped through her fingers. The creak of the front door swinging open drew her attention away from her wandering thoughts. As she glanced over, Ryan entered, his very being enveloping the space with a natural assurance. He moved with a confidence that suggested he was at home in every space he entered, tall with defined features and a sly smile that hinted at deeper understanding. He was a world apart from Mark. He possessed a unique ability to infuse even the most serene moments with a palpable energy. "It was a long night," he inquired, his gaze falling upon the untouched wine. Emily conjured a faint smile. "Something akin to that." Ryan settled onto the couch opposite her, sprawling out as if he were the master of the domain. "Father reached out. He mentioned that he would be away for yet another week." "Indeed, he would." Mark's enterprise consistently took precedence. Emily nodded, striving to mask her true feelings behind a veil of indifference. "That doesn't catch me off guard." Ryan gazed at her thoughtfully for a moment before he began to speak. "You appear to be struggling." She released a mirthless chuckle. "Is it truly that apparent?" He simply shrugged, a gesture that spoke volumes without uttering a single word. "A tiny bit." Emily gazed at him, truly gazed at him. He had outgrown the essence of boyhood. It was the final moment she had laid eyes on him prior to his arrival. In the vibrant days of his college life, he brimmed with untamed energy and soaring ambition. Now he stood with a newfound composure, radiating self-assurance. He possessed a certain sharpness. There was an intensity in his gaze, a hint of peril in the way he watched her. She adjusted her position, a spark of realization igniting within her as she became acutely aware of his proximity. "Oh, it's just a trivial matter, truly." Lost in a whirlwind of thoughts, Ryan held back, yet his eyes remained fixed, weaving a silent tale of curiosity. There was an unsettling quality in the way he effortlessly pierced through her facade. In the days that followed, Emily felt an undeniable pull towards him, a connection that was both mysterious and compelling. Once upon a time, in a world filled with wonder, there was a need for clarity. The quest for understanding began, as questions arose like stars in the night sky. Each inquiry was a thread, weaving a tapestry of knowledge, waiting to be unraveled and shared. And so, the journey of explanation commenced, illuminating the path for all who sought to know. It was simply an occurrence, unintentional and without malice. Only fleeting instances. Dialogues that unfolded beyond their intended duration. Secretive glances exchanged when she believed he was unaware. He possessed a unique ability to make her feel truly acknowledged. An emotion that had eluded her for years. She began to focus more on her appearance when he was around. At first, it was an unconscious choice, but before long, she discovered herself selecting outfits that highlighted her. She adjusted her hair with a touch more precision, ensuring every strand fell just right. It was harmless, she reassured herself. A touch of attention could do wonders for anyone. Ryan, for his part, appeared to take note. His compliments, though casual, held a subtle depth that she could not be overlooked. "That color looks good on you," he remarked one evening, his voice carrying a hint of admiration. His gaze held for a moment, stretching the silence between them. With a light-hearted chuckle, she waved it away, feigning indifference to its impact on her. Yet, it truly did. On a particular evening, she made the choice to bake. It was an experience she had long since set aside, yet the stillness of the house weighed upon her, and she craved a diversion. With great care, she crafted a decadent chocolate cake, the aroma enveloping the kitchen in a cozy embrace. As she completed her task, Ryan entered, lured by the enticing scent that filled the air. "Do you indulge in the art of baking?" he inquired, his surprise evident. With a sly grin, she set a plate down before him. "I once did." As Ryan took a bite, a transformation flickered across his face. "Wow, that's truly impressive." Emily observed him, a flicker of emotion igniting within her at his response. It was a fleeting moment. Though he seemed innocent, the intensity of his gaze sent her heart racing. "I'm full of surprises," she said with a playful tone, yet the weight of her words lingered in the air, heavier than they ought to be. Ryan's gaze locked onto hers, a mystery waiting to be unraveled. "I wager you are." A silence lingered in the air, a palpable presence between them, something. Silent whispers linger in the atmosphere. Emily swallowed, summoning the strength to avert her gaze. That night, as she lay in bed, an unsettling sensation lingered, whispering that something had shifted in the air. She whispered to herself that it was nothing, merely a moment that would pass. Instants. Yet, within her heart, she held a deeper understanding. Emily stirred from her slumber, a sense of unease lingering in the air. The atmosphere within the house was thick with an unnameable energy, a sensation that lingered in the air like a whispered secret waiting to be uncovered. She whispered to herself that it was nothing, merely her mind weaving illusions, yet deep down, she recognized the truth of the deception. Each encounter with Ryan was laced with an unvoiced tension, a hint of peril lurking beneath the surface. She had woven a narrative in her mind, believing it to be harmless, that she was merely relishing the attention. Yet, the way her heart responded to his presence whispered a different tale altogether. As the hours passed, she became increasingly attuned to his presence. The manner in which he moved, the cadence of his speech, everything seemed amplified. She became aware of details that were meant to remain hidden. The shirt clung to his toned frame, and his voice deepened as he spoke to her, weaving an undeniable allure in the air between them. Once upon a time, in a world filled with wonder and intrigue, there existed a tale waiting to be told. This story, like a whisper carried by the wind, beckons the curious and the brave to listen closely. It holds the promise of adventure, the thrill of discovery, and the magic of imagination. So gather around, for every word is a thread woven into the fabric of a grand narrative, inviting you to embark on a journey beyond the ordinary. Wasn't merely a figment of her imagination. In that moment an essence lingered, something undeniably genuine. And that filled her with dread. She endeavored to maintain her distance, yet it proved to be an insurmountable challenge. The mansion loomed large, its vastness somehow oppressive, wrapping around him like a heavy cloak when he drew near. Each time she entered a room, he was present, sprawled on the couch, leaning casually against the kitchen counter, observing her with a gaze that sent shivers down her spine. He spoke little, yet his silence conveyed everything needed. Just the sight of him was enough to send a shiver down her spine. That evening, she found herself in the kitchen, her mind wandering, when she sensed his presence behind her. Near, far too near. "You're quiet today," he remarked, his voice barely above a whisper. With a determined smile, she concentrated intently on the cutting board before her. Feeling a bit weary, Ryan remained still. He lingered in that moment, the warmth of his being enveloping her from behind. "Is that everything?" Her grip tightened on the knife. What more could it possibly be? Long pause. In that case, I'm uncertain. Share your tale with me. She pivoted to meet his gaze, her heart racing with intensity. His gaze met hers, brimming with an enigmatic depth that eluded her understanding. It was more than mere curiosity. Once upon a time, in a world filled with wonder and intrigue, there existed a tale waiting to be told. There existed a shadow, a depth of understanding that lingered in the air. You're imagining things, she said, her voice a soft murmur, as if sharing a secret meant only for the shadows. Ryan's lips curled into a smirk, yet the expression held no trace of amusement. As you wish. He took a step back, allowing her some room, yet the harm had already been inflicted. The air was thick with tension, palpable and inescapable. She released a trembling breath, reminding herself that this was spiraling beyond her grasp. In the days that followed, she made every effort to push it aside, to let it fade into the background of her thoughts. She steered clear of solitude with him, ensuring their exchanges remained short and to the point. Yet, it proved to be of no assistance. In truth, it only deepened the troubles. For Ryan, there was no retreat. He observed her as she lingered in anticipation. And a part of her, the part she loathed to admit, was waiting as well. Then arrived the night. All was transformed. The hour was late, and a hush enveloped the house. Emily nestled on the couch, a book cradled in her hands, yet her mind wandered far beyond the pages before her. She sensed the footsteps trailing behind her, an unmistakable rhythm that told her it was him even before she turned around. Restless, he inquired. She gently shook her head, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. Ah, you. Ryan settled himself next to her. Nearer than was wise. Not quite. A silence lingered between them, heavy and oppressive. She ought to have taken a step, to have exited the room. Yet, she chose not to. You don't have to pretend, he said suddenly. With a furrowed brow, she turned to face him. What are we pretending? That you remain untouched by it. Her breath hitched. She parted her lips to refute it, to silence the moment, yet the words eluded her grasp. Ryan leaned in slightly, not touching her, but close enough that she could sense the warmth radiating from him. I perceive the gaze you cast upon me, he went on. The manner in which you endeavor to refrain from doing so. She took a deep breath, her throat tightening. This is not right. Is it? His voice flowed like a gentle river, unwavering and serene, as though the world around him held no sway over his composure. In that moment, every part of her being quivered with an uncontainable energy. You're my stepson, she murmured softly. Ryan inclined his head, a gesture that hinted at curiosity. What comes next? With a sudden movement, she rose to her feet, creating a space that separated them. This isn't happening. Ryan held back, refraining from intervening, or halting her progress. He lingered in silence, observing her with that same enigmatic gaze. As you wish. With a swift turn, she departed, her heart pounding fiercely within her chest. Yet, beneath the surface, she was aware of the reality. The threshold had already been breached. Emily found her thoughts tangled and elusive. The burden of what had been brewing between her and Ryan enveloped her like a heavy fog. Each breath weighed down upon her, and every glance they shared brimmed with an undeniable intensity that she could not overlook. She whispered to herself that it was merely tension, a fleeting shadow that would dissolve if she stepped back into the light. Yet the tale was far from straightforward. The journey had already ventured beyond the point of no return. As the tempest raged beyond her window, it echoed the turmoil that churned within her soul. The rain lashed at the windows, and an unusual chill enveloped the house. In the softly illuminated kitchen, she found herself gripping the counter, seeking to steady her trembling form. She sought to reclaim her power. She had to put an end to this before it unraveled everything she held dear. Footsteps drew near. She recognized him instantly, even before a word escaped his lips. "You're evading me," Ryan remarked from the threshold. Emily breathed out gently, turning her back to him. "It seems that this is the wisest choice. What is the reason behind this?" She met his gaze with a quiet intensity. "You understand the reason behind it." Ryan inched forward, drawn by an unseen force. His gaze remained fixed on hers, unwavering and intense. "It seems to me that this might not be what you truly desire." Her heart constricted. "Ah, the mystery of my desires eludes you, doesn't it?" His smirk held a quiet power, a mere flicker that sent a shiver racing down her spine. "I believe I do." She ought to have departed. In that moment, she ought to have drawn the line, to bring it all to a close without delay. Yet, she chose not to. Instead, she allowed the silence to linger, letting the moment hover between them like an unspoken inquiry. And then, in a twist of fate, it happened. A choice made, forever etched in time. A fleeting instant that broke through the delicate shield she had fought to maintain. It was a surge of energy, a heady mix of excitement and fear. Though her mind cried out for her to halt, her body chose to defy her wishes. Each caress, each breath shared in secret, was a misstep she understood would haunt her in the days to come. In that fleeting moment, regret held no significance. Yet, as the final moment faded, the heavy hand of reality descended upon her. She drew back, gasping for air, her heart racing wildly. The room seemed to close in, a weight pressing down, stifling the air around. "This was wrong," she murmured, her voice trembling. Ryan observed her intently. His expression was a mystery, a canvas of emotions concealed beneath a veil of calm. "Was it?" She took a step back, a gentle shake of her head accompanying her disbelief. "Indeed, this must not occur once more." His silence lingered in the air, thick and heavy, creating an atmosphere of unease. For the first time, she found herself unable to decipher his thoughts. Then, in an instant, as swiftly as the moment had intensified, everything began to fall apart. Ryan exhaled softly, resting his weight against the counter. His gaze deepening into shadows. "You truly believed this was something genuine, didn't you?" Her stomach plummeted. "What is it that you seek?" He tilted his head, a smirk creeping back onto his lips, but this time it held a deeper, more intriguing edge. The chill in the air was palpable. Thoughtfully measured. "I knew," he said, with a quiet certainty. "I sensed it from the very start." Her pulse throbbed in her throat. "What did you know?" "That you desired my presence." He uttered it with such nonchalance, as though it were a truth everyone already knew. "I simply had to find out if you would truly go through with it." Her breath hitched. "What are you speaking of?" Ryan let out a breath, a hint of amusement dancing in his eyes. "It was never in my plans for this to unfold. Yet, when I caught a glimpse of the way you gazed at me, the way you attempted to conceal it, my curiosity was piqued. I was curious to discover the lengths you would reach." Emily sensed that the very earth she stood on had vanished into thin air. "You were putting me to the test." He remained silent. He had no reason to. His silence spoke volumes. A surge of queasiness washed over her. With a firm grasp on the edge of the counter, she steadied herself, bracing for what was to come. "To you, this was merely a game." Ryan's expression became gentle. Yet, it was not sympathy. It was something far more tragic, a deep sense of pity. "You allowed it to unfold, Emily. You desired it with the same fervor that I did." Her stomach knotted with unease. The weight of shame and regret hung heavy, an unbearable burden to bear. "I brought chaos to it all." He remained silent in agreement. She averted her gaze, thoughts swirling like a tempest within her mind. How had she allowed it to reach this point? How could she have been so oblivious? Ryan let out a heavy breath. "Fear not. Silence will be my response." Yet, that was not the essence of the matter. The harm had already been inflicted. Even if the world remained oblivious, she would carry this burden within her heart forever. The treachery, the disgrace, the lingering shame, it would haunt forever. She summoned the courage to gaze upon him one final time. The boy she believed she had come to know had vanished. Before her stood a man who had witnessed her at her most vulnerable, who had pushed her limits and observed her moments of defeat. In silence, she turned and walked away, leaving in her wake the greatest blunder she would ever know. Emily hardly recognized the reflection staring back at her. The image gazing back at her in the mirror was empty, devoid of the assurance she once possessed. The burden of her decisions bore heavily upon her, enveloping her in a manner she had never envisioned before. She had woven a narrative in her mind, believing that her encounter with Ryan was destined to unfold, that she had merely slipped from her grasp for a fleeting instant. Yet, in this moment, she grasped the reality that lay before her. It was but a fleeting instant. A tapestry of choices unfolded before her, each thread weaving her deeper into a journey from which there was no turning back. Days drifted by, yet everything felt like a mere illusion. Ryan had pulled away, no longer hanging around the house, no longer observing her with that familiar, knowing smirk. She seemed to fade into the background, as though she were a mere whisper in the wind. And perhaps, in some sense, she no longer did. Not the version of her that had stepped into this house months ago, convinced she was merely an overlooked wife with a solitary heart. That woman had vanished into thin air. Mark observed the transformation. He was aware, even if she had convinced herself otherwise. On a quiet evening, as they faced one another at the dinner table, he finally uttered the words. "You've been quite unique lately." Emily conjured a smile. Feeling a bit weary. Mark gazed at her intently, placing his fork aside. "Did I do something wrong?" The question struck with an unexpected force. For what felt like an eternity, she had cast the blame upon him for the chasm that had grown between them, weaving a narrative in her mind that his indifference had driven her to seek solace in another's embrace. Yet, as she sat here now, gazing at the man who had placed his unwavering trust in her, she found that the weight of blame rested solely on her own shoulders. "No," she murmured softly. "It's not you." He nodded slowly, yet the doubt in his eyes remained, casting a shadow over his thoughts. He sensed an unease in the air, a whisper of trouble that lingered just beyond his grasp. And Emily understood that it was merely a question of time, before the truth would reveal itself to him. Ryan was embarking on a journey away from here. She caught a glimpse of him on the phone, weaving plans to pack his bags and leave. She ought to have experienced relief, yet what enveloped her was only a heavy sense of dread. On the eve of his departure, she discovered him perched on the balcony, gazing out over the sprawling cityscape. For a fleeting moment, she weighed the option of turning her back and stepping away. Yet, a whisper within her urged her to confront this challenge. "You're leaving," she whispered softly. Ryan averted his gaze from her. "Indeed, I believe the moment has arrived." She took a deep breath. "I never intended." "Stop," he cut in. "We are both aware of the events that unfolded. There's no use in feigning." With her eyes shut tight, a wave of shame swept over her once more. "I'm at a loss for how to mend this." Ryan finally faced her. His expression was a mystery, a canvas of emotions hidden beneath the surface. "Indeed, you do not." Her throat constricted. "Oh, how I long to rewind the hands of time, and reclaim what was lost." He let out a breath, a slow shake of his head following. "Ah, Emily, therein lies the essence. It is not possible." She felt a deep urge to elaborate, to clarify, to defend her position. Yet, all justifications had vanished into thin air. He rose, clutching his drink as he strolled by her. "Farewell, Emily." And just like that, he vanished into the ether. She found herself lost in time, gazing at the the vast expanse where he had journeyed. She had lost him, but even more devastating, she had lost a piece of herself. A week later, Mark found the courage to face her. He discovered the truth, not through Ryan, but through the weight of her own remorse. He had glimpsed it within her far-off gazes. She pulled back from his touch, a sudden withdrawal that spoke volumes. Her gaze danced away from his, a silent tale unfolding in the space between them. "Is there something Do you have something to share with me?" he inquired, his tone hauntingly serene. Emily sensed a constriction in her chest. She had the option to weave a tale of deceit. She might have chosen to turn away from the truth. Yet, she found herself too weary to continue the charade. "Indeed," she murmured softly. The hush that ensued was excruciating. Mark chose not to raise his voice. He refrained from casting blame. He gazed at her, his expression a mystery she had never encountered before. Prior to. In the shadows of expectation, disappointment lingers, weaving its tale of unmet hopes. "I don't even know who you are," he finally said. She did not either. 1 month later, the papers of separation arrived. She chose not to resist them. She held her ground. She realized that defeat was already upon her. As she gathered her belongings, readying herself to depart from the place she had once envisioned as eternal, memories flooded her mind, each one a thread in the tapestry that had woven her journey to this very moment. Every decision she had taken. Every moment she had turned a blind eye to the ominous signals. The allure had presented a challenge, and she had succumbed. The air was devoid of excitement, stripped of any thrill. Just a lingering sense of regret. Some betrayals may find a path to forgiveness, yet others carve deep scars that time cannot erase. And some errors carry a price that few are prepared to bear. Emily found herself in a world stripped bare, where every thread of her past had unraveled. And for what purpose?